Hello and welcome to the weekend edition. I'm Dr. Kingod. We have a great show lined up for you. It's been a great week, except for Harmonize. Maze Harmonize alienda kujaribu hizi magames za wazungu kwa uwanja TZ in front of thousands of people at ziplining. Alishuka kama bei ya maembe. Hata kama ni kuingia na vishindo, unaangukaje kama gunia? But anyway, we can all agree that tangu anze mziki hajawahi hit hivyo. Huko Tanzania sasa nasikia kwa ground ni Harmonize tu. Now after the incident, he posted the video on his Instagram page, akai caption, "Don't try this at home." Kwani Tanzania si kwao? Anyway, our guest for this episode is former Director of Digital Innovations and Diaspora Communications at State House. Dennis Itumbi is in the house. And speaking of digital, I have great vibes from Telkom Kenya in the form of great data bundle offers. Plus niko na 2,000 bob of airtime nataka kukupatia. But first, elders from the Tiriki community have called on the government to open the economy so that they can circumcise their boys whose maturity has been delayed by the pandemic. It's something they could have done virtually, lakini internet connections huko kwa msitu ni tiriki sana. But come to think of it, unajua tunaweza kuwa hapa tukiomba economy ifunguliwe na kuna maboi pale Tiriki wanaomba sana tusifunguliwe juu ile kitu wanaenda kupitia. NTV has covered the Tiriki circumcision, inakuanga event ya karibu mwezi mmoja. Haikuangi mchezo.
Kila kitu msituni huendeshwa kitamaduni, yakiwemo malazi, kwani badala ya kulalia godoro na kujifunika kwa blanketi, wao hulalia majani ya ndizi na kujifunika ngozi ya ng'ombe.
Ideally, circumcision is considered the transition from childhood to adulthood. Now, my basic understanding of maturity is that it's all about the mind, which begs the question, kwani akili ya mwanaume ukua wapi? In other news, who knew that a time would come when the church would celebrate the sale of alcohol more than the drunkards? Well, these are the times, and the church is in South Africa, according to this story carried by NTV this week.
Liquor is the one that is connecting us with our God, because if I'm under the influence of liquor, I'm under the influence of the Holy Spirit at the same time.
Basically, in this church, anyone can be the most high. Hii ni kanisa kweli ama ni club inacheza gospel peke yake? Imagine if this church was to open a branch in Kenya. Kijana manze, wachana na pombe itakuwa, kuja nikupeleke kanisa. Na si huko ndio nimetoka. Imagine kuwekewa alcohol nje ya kanisa. Afade unataka kusema ujui tofauti ya Holy Spirit na wine and spirits. Mimi sio mlevi. Ni kujazwa nimejazwa na roho. Haters will argue that these are sinners with self-esteem. Anima wenye dhambi wako na self-esteem issues. Vile wewe unaweza enda mbele za Bwana kimangoto on Sunday. Unasema Bwana nimekuja mbele zako kama mwenye dhambi na mimi ni kiumbe dhaifu. Unasema dhambi zako zote ukiwa soba. Hawa waumini hawaezi. I'm not sure how this concept would work in Kenya, especially kwa ile party announcements. Kwa wageni wetu wa leo, mnaweza ongea na dada Agnes. Dada Agnes, amka kidogo, salimia watu hewani. Basi, yeye ndiye ako na opener. Mtu asijaribu kufungua pombe na meno. Walimu wa Sunday school tafadhali, last warning, ukichukua mziga ni yako peke yako. Amen. Now also during a virtual conference attended by the president this week on Monday, the Deputy President William Ruto's speech got interrupted after a technical hitch.
Our manufacturing program is a program that not only provides us the mechanism to solve our immediate problems, but it...
Well, we seem to have a slight challenge there with the signal of His Excellency, the Deputy President William Ruto.
As soon as this happened, pundits jumped into conclusions that the so-called system that has allegedly been against the Deputy President is Zoom. Kuna watu wanasema ati it's not unusual hustler kuishiwa na bundles, but mimi niko sure his history na bundles. This has nothing to do na kuishiwa na bundles. Aje. itakuwa kuishiwa na bundles aje na Telcom mara out here offering kitu kama 30 GB na 1000 bob only, 100 bob unapata 2 GB daily data bundles na bado inakuja na 2 GB night bundles, ama 60 bob peke yake uko na 700 MBs inakuja na another 700 MBs night bundles. Haiwezi kuwa story na bundles. Haters pia wanasema sio mara ya kwanza DP ameachwa hanging kwa meeting iko na president. This incident is probably an innocent mishap, mazi, but it has already been politicized. This just goes to prove that there is poor connection between the DP and the president. Vile nimesema, hii kitu labda ni itilafu tu kidogo ya kimitambo. Halafu pia niko sure vile nimesema, si bundles. Na usiwahi kubali kujipata kwa noma ya kama hii ya aibu ndogo ndogo juu ya bundles. Ukiwa na line ya Telcom kwanza, usiwahi. Just dial *544# on your Telcom line for the most affordable data bundle packages. Last week kwanza niliuliza swali simple sana. Mkitembea na mtu mkiwa watu wawili, alafu uone pesa chini, alafu mwenzako aokote, hiyo pesa ni ya nani? Mwenye ameona ama mwenye aliokota? I received some of the craziest responses. Na kama my personal favorite ilikuwa jamaa anaitwa Njaga Wanjala Wafula on my Facebook page. Alisema mse wa kuokota of course. Mimi nionyeshe beshte yangu dem super tukitembea kwa street, alafu yeye aende amuongeleshe na aingie box. Halafu mimi ni catch feelings. Na sikuwa na guts za kuenda kumuongelesha in the first place. We ulisikia wapi? Jaga hiyo kitu ilinibamba sana, lakini credo inaendea mwenye alifollow instruction, which was very simple. The comment that most people agreed with, na mwenye alitag Telcom Kenya na at Dr_Kingori on Twitter na Instagram, at Dr.Kingori on Facebook. Hizo ndio zilikuwa instructions. So credo ya last week inaendea Kare Amor Reshni. Bado niko na makredo mob za kupeana, so stand by for details on the second part of the show. Now, they say the internet never forgets, or does it? And if it doesn't, then how comes it mostly remembers the negative, in my opinion? Now, there's a virtual organization in the corridors of the internet inaitwa Twitter DCI. Hawa kona file ya kila mtu. Juzi walifungua file ya Pauline Njoroge, and the rest is history. One tweet from her past where she criticized the idea of having a national park in the city cost her the appointment to the Tourism Regulatory Board. And this is just one example. How do people survive on these streets? For that and more, our guest Dennis Itumbi joins us on the other end of this short commercial break for more details on that and more. See you guys in a bit. Welcome back to the Wicked Edition. I'm Dr. Kingori, show nzito tena kama kawaida. Leo tunataka kujua ile concept ya the internet never forgets. What does that even mean? And who better to talk about that than a digital strategist? Dennis Itumbi, karibu sana.
Asante.
Ama
ni daktari.
Salamu ya COVID. Unajua siku hizi tunasalimia pasta hivi na mko tu sawa. Anaelewa it's for their own safety.
Yes.
Karibu sana mazee tena after very many years.
Nashukuru.
It's 3 years. In fact, it's almost 4 years since you were last here.
Amen.
Manze. Long time.
Good.
Digital strategist. Ni nini kwanza?
Digital strategy is a concept of bringing new media into a space of communication. Just like the way you bring comedy into programming. Yes.
Si ati kufunza watu kutweet.
But tweeting is just a means to an end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nikisema the internet never forgets. Tulikuwa na example hapa ya Pauline Njoroge. Alitweet kitu about Nairobi National Park. Kuna kitu inaitwa Twitter DCI. Wakaenda wakamfungulia file bila amepewa appointment, wakuja wakaivuruta. Is that a fair way to judge people?
Well, first of all, let me say first on the concept of internet forgets. I think as we speak today, the internet actually forgets. What we are trying to do now is saying that the natural curve of growth should not happen, because you have to be very careful about what you do now. You should not express your thoughts now as you wait for a future that is going to be determined by a past. I mean, surely we must allow the natural growth of especially at some age, you should be able to express yourself, say what is in your mind then. It does not necessarily represent what you believe later. I mean, I believed for a very long time that the sweetest fruit was oranges. I probably today believe lemons are. So if I tweeted oranges were, and now today I believe they are lemons, it doesn't constitute an issue that should be judged by what I held in the past and what I hold now.
But as someone who's been a fan of oranges, interesting choice of Nini, I believe you're not a fan of oranges that much.
Yeah.
But if someone would argue that for a position that requires lemon people, it's not convenient for you to be a lemon person now that they need lemon people, and you have previously held a public opinion, a public stand that you are an oranges person.
Only if they have a remote control on live and they use judgment if they take me back to the orange when I used to have the orange at 12, 13 years and not forward to what I am now. You must be able to judge people to what they believe and hold now. Yes, there's some waiting aspect of what I've held in the past, but it should not overrun what I stand for now.
Okay. Have you had an experience on social media in a way that thing you've experienced, you're being judged by something you said in the past, being brought back after you changed your position?
Yes, I've had several. And my position has always been that it's only, in that famous phrase, that it's only fools who don't change their mind.
Okay.
However, there are some fundamental philosophical positions that I have not changed over time. For instance, I've always held that journalistic sources are sacred. So when they arrested John Girashu, who then worked for The Nation, and claimed this because they wanted to know his sources, even if I was at the heart of decision-making in State House, I stood in that meeting and said, journalist sources are sacred. And even if the entire government at the time was fashioned to believe that this person should be arrested and put through a court process, I joined editors and fellow journalists in saying that journalistic sources are sacred. So there's some philosophical positions that do not change over time. One of the other things that have been brought up is that during General Miguna's eviction, which was actually against court orders that have been issued against government, and I have since apologized to Miguna, and he has accepted the apology publicly. However, there was a small aspect that keeps coming up, that I held that police were right in ejecting journalists off the place where they were filming. And I still hold that today because it's a philosophical position. Great airports in the world have a place where filming is done. You cannot have an airport where you are allowed to just film wherever you want and in whatever way you mean and in whatever form you just put a camera and move. There has to be regulations in an airport.
But hata kama ni regulations, I don't think the police were proper, because you yourself behaved properly in that instance. Na we pia mwenyewe, you've been a victim of police twice, I know of. Ya kwanza ni ile walikufanyia mambo yao usiku.
18 policemen, rain blows, they start kicking. What kind of people are this? I'm even shocked with police. They would rather even have arrested me and put me in the cell. And my only mistake is to go to a public police station to pick my card.
And then the next one was ile kwa podium when the president was talking. Do you know these people? Because you've been in government. When you walikuinua juju behind the scenes, do you know them?
During the BBI launch? That's
Yes,
what you're referring to?
Yes.
I mean, those are normal things. You see, when you're in a presidential function, the security of the president comes first. So in the event a policeman thinks that at the moment the presidential security is compromised, they have a right to take away everyone. And it happens every day, only that it doesn't happen on camera. Only that in this instance, I was on camera. They pull people, it doesn't matter their rank and designation. I mean, I've seen even senior people than the position I was holding being pulled away. So I mean,
so you went there knowing that would happen?
No. Actually, I was just actually leaving. That day I was actually leaving.
And
I was seated.
Faster.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a good thing. I mean, some moments are good. I mean, being pulled here, being pushed there, being pulled here, being pushed there. Those are part of life.
But how does that make you
feel? You read
like
my book because it has some anecdotes that just some small bits of stories that make it interesting, such as those. So I mean, without those experiences in life, your life is not, it's like adding salt and Royco.
Food will still make you feel. The president knows you in person. You have, I believe, do you have access? Do you have the president's phone number?
We speak even today.
You speak even on phone, sindio? Wakati wanakuinua na kubeba juju na president, ukusema president, as in.
I'm not the president, so I am, other than the president, who would have an issue when they are pulled with all the deputy president. The rest of us are just people around there who have access to power and who are doing something, including the policemen. So today I'm pulled away. Tomorrow even a policeman will be pulled away. So don't worry about those smaller things in life. They are just, as I've told you, they're just like a good meal. A good meal will still be prepared and get cooked and get served with or without Royco or salt.
We live in a world yenye people are so quick to capture a moment than deal with a moment. Unaget? I'm sure if the president had turned, hata yangetoa simu wa record. As in, that's what life has become, Sai. Unaget? Yes. Like, is that a bad thing? Ama that's basically what life is. Because our people argue, you are an advocate wa mambo ya journalism. One of the stories I've been told is I believe you know this story as a journalist. Most people when you interact kwa hizi circles anajua about someone who found a hungry kid on a farming, a photojournalist. And then he clicked away, mpaka the kid died, and then akakuliwa na vulture. So the question was, should this journalist have helped that child, ama he did the right thing because the world got to talk about it?
There is a rule of spin. The rule of spin is this: get all the facts first, and then spin your way. So in that particular story which I've had, the facts are not fully revealed. Was this kid suffering from, so that even if he gave water, he would probably just have accelerated the process of death. Probably if he gave food, the kid would have died anyway. What were the issues first? So could the journalist have solved? It is an if-if situation. But I know that story, that even in journalism school, we are taught if you're behind a bus and that bus is carrying your parents and it rolls, your first instinct as a journalist would be to take the photos and then try and see whether your parents have survived and pull them out. So that is what you would call journalism school and its past. Of course, that has since been updated because journalism has also become an aspect of citizen journalism. A journalist who tells a story when they are saving people or when they are helping a kid who is hungry has a better impact on a story than a journalist who just tells their story and keeps a distance between the issues and the camera. So that has, of course, evolved over time. But that was the teaching in journalism school that I also went through.
What would be your advice on how people should behave on the internet? Should you behave na idea futuristically like, mimi maze labda naenda kutafuta job siku moja hii tweet nichomee. Ama you should just be yourself, you will change in future.
I always say this: be yourself, express yourself, fear no one, state facts, only put out that which you can defend, even in the biggest court of law. And do not worry if you've spoken the truth. Do not worry what whatever they switch on and off in the darkness, because eventually the truth will stand out.
I saw a story in terms of cloud judgment ya mtandao. Smita, he was accused of rape years ago, and then he sued actually for defamation. Later ikakuwa niaje, it wasn't. Unaget? So kuna mtu vile nasema, someone somewhere never actually knows and got to interact with the information niaje. He was exonerated. He actually won the case and stands to be paid. Unajua hiyo ya the idea the internet never forgets, and coincidentally they never forget the negative things mostly. Hiyo ndio algorithm.
Yes, the algorithm is set for the negativity. That's what I was telling you. When people insult or talk negatively about you, you should actually encourage them to continue, because it actually places you better. The index on the search engine makes you better. Let me put it this way. For Smita's case and many other cases, there's something called search engine optimization, which they should invest in to ensure that the index of negativity does not reflect on the search engine. However, Google publishes every year an annual report of transparency. So for instance, in 2019, Kenyan government requested Google to bring down one article, and that is put up there. When you go Google on that, you'll get it. Every country has requested, and even individuals have requested to Google to bring down stuff, and they listen. I've given you a few examples at the beginning of this, and Google actually brings it down. I mean, you have had the case of Kenya Governor Anne Waiguru, when she was facing the NYS issue. She sued Google and got some orders to bring down a few things. So it is possible.
That's actually true.
Yes, it is true. You can Google it up. Mm-hmm. It is true that you can actually engage search engines with a purpose of bringing down the negativity. So the issue of internet does not forget, that's what I told you, is not cast in stone. It is actually, it's actually more of a phrase in a myth as opposed to a reality.
So you can actually decide to delete yourself from the internet if you can afford it.
Not only afford it, if you can engage. I mean, Google doesn't charge you for bringing down a case that you have legitimately done.
Okay, that said, you are also of the opinion that your negativity is actually good for a brand.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say something a bit controversial. Fake news is not necessarily bad. It depends on how you use it.
How so?
I will encourage your listeners, as after maybe this show, to go in and look for something called The Shade. The Shade was a non-existent hotel in London. So this guy went to TripAdvisor and started saying how it is a serious hotel and gave a number. And people started calling the number, they would say it's fully booked. Remember, it did not exist. And then he would give some cuisines and some recipes that were being done there and some photos in his garden. And people believed this is the most expensive place because it was always fully booked. Even on Valentine's Day, you could not get it. And then he would get one or two celebrities and influencers who they would take photo with, and he would say they were at The Shade. Within a year, The Shade was #1 on TripAdvisor. And after becoming #1 on TripAdvisor, and there are too many clients, he then now made The Shade outside the garden of his house, which was a small house, and so started a hotel. So you see, fake news delivered an income for someone. So there is a way that fake news can be used to, I mean, just find out how much this world spent on fighting fake news just the last 2 years. We are talking of billions of dollars. So King Ori, if you've not made anything out of even 0.005 of the billion of dollars, your work is just to fight fake news and not to use them for something that can add value to you.
Ah, okay. Sawa sawa basi. Last word kwa watu wote ma supporters wa Deno.
I'll say this. The digital space was aimed at, you can use it to enhance yourself. Don't spend too much time debating whether or not it's good or bad. Engage. Then do not be told that there are things you should not do and there are things you should do. There are people who you should not expose and there are people you should expose. And do not agree to take what I hear is 527 shillings paid to influencers and content creators. Go for it, create a business out of it, write it down, structure it, make money out of it, make a career out of it. One of the things we made on awards in government was to ensure that digital strategy is accepted as a scheme of service. So today you can be employed as a blogger, as a digital strategist, as an digital analysis officer within government.
Meme lords is actually a thing now, but I don't want to question whether meme lords will see heaven. People who follow my page know that that's the headquarters of some of the sweetest and most entertaining comments ever. But now, kwa hii mambo ya kupeana airtime na Telcom, I have 2,000 bob worth of airtime nataka kupeana, na the instructions are very, very simple. Tukiongea na Deno hapo, I mentioned a story, and I like to hear your opinion on that. Just an answer, and the answer that people will agree with the most. A journalist goes and finds a hungry child. Akapiga picha, mpaka umtoi akapass na hunger, and he shared the pictures, and people came out, donors wakakam kutoa do kwa sababu the hunger situation, they got the message ya hunger situation. So there's a divide. Kuna watu wana feel the journalist should have actually went out na akasaidia mtoi, akampatia maziwa na maybe kitu ya kukula. Na kuna other people who feel the journalist ali make more impact by taking the pictures and saved more life instead. Which one is the argument that holds water? The answer ama the response that most people agree with, na kupatia credo ya 2,000 bob ya Telcom. Make sure ukiwa pale Twitter, tag at Telcom Kenya, at Dr_Kingori on Twitter and Instagram, at Dr. Kingori on Facebook, that's Dr. Kingori. Alafu na all the other platforms, make sure.
TikTok.
Nivo tu, yes?
Hakuna TikTok.
TikTok, watu wa TikTok, by the way, watu wa TikTok pia wanahitaji bundles, si ndio?
Kabisa.
But TikToks in 15 seconds wanaweza kuwa wametujibu kweli. Aya, TikTok, anywhere, just tag at Dr_Kingori. Niko kwa hizo platforms zote, hata TikTok ni vile si dancingi. mi dance kwa Instagram. But anyway, tuende kazi. Otherwise, Deno, asante sana kwa kukam show. Always a pleasure having you on board. That's it for the Wicked Edition. See you next week. My name is Dr. Kingori.